Just as he began to pin the first leg of his tour, Avery called. She was full of sarcasm and satire, using a 1950s accent of a telephone operator, giving him every bit of shit she could about having to actually speak through a phone. Costello was a bit of a curmudgeon, and Avery picked up on that right away. He was kind, but firm, told Avery he didn't want to start training yet and felt motivated to start working on the tour itinerary. Avery understood. She didn't hold back, however. She accepted his choice and told him she would be available when he was ready. The topic of plant medicine came up. Psilocybin was slowly being integrated into psychiatric medicine nationwide, and she had been an advocate for years. Not only did she think it would benefit Costello over the risperidone, she also saw it as a much healthier treatment while he would be cycling across the country, so long as he managed it appropriately. Costello mentioned his penchant for deep intoxication, so she knew how important it would be for him to follow strict guidelines. Costello found his altruism through the bit of dullard emotion he was experiencing and thanked Avery for her engagement. He knew she was fueled by upbeat and compassionate behavior, so he emptied the tank and passed the test. She let him go with a hint of a lovable goodbye. Costello found himself beaming. Even when he thought his darkness was getting the best of him, Avery found a way to uncover the light. The first leg of the tour was going to be a new experience for Costello. A mammoth kickoff through the Tehachapi Mountains hitting tough elevations would be a hellacious challenge. However, sending him northwest for no other reason than scenery and bragging rights. The best way out of Los Angeles County and into San Bernardino County, where he would lock onto Interstate 40, is Highway 18, just south of Lake Los Angeles. I-40 is an historic route where the trails of songs, mystery, and mass murder laid waiting in towns like Barstow, Daggett, the wasteland of Calico Ghost Town, and the dystopian town of Newberry Springs. Once he passes Newberry Springs, it's smooth sailing along the Mojave National Preserve and into Bullhead City, Arizona. If everything goes as planned, he could push his first day into Barstow and then follow up day 2 into Arizona. From there, he would have the entire state to challenge himself into New Mexico and settle into Albuquerque. Much as Costello felt like he was on a roll, he felt the need to ease off and let the next chapter of the tour come to him slowly. He knew he would be starting north through the Midwest and would need to ensure his miles were meticulously accurate. He would also need to ensure he had the supplies and gear needed to stretch through these barren and potentially very cold areas. He oddly considered restarting social media. However, there were pros and cons to this. The trip would be rather legendary, and posting it would garner quite a following. This could become a motivating factor, but could also lead to him becoming a national figure. That may not be the best idea, considering the fact he was a suspect in a double homicide, at least in his mind. Maybe he could post with a pseudonym and face covering. He'd become quite comfortable with the face covering, so that wouldn't be an issue. As long as he could convince Avery to keep quiet about his identity, this could work. Keeping any profiles private could help as well. He could have Avery help vet any new followers. Costello sat back and got quite a laugh from this entire idea. He was having delusions of grandeur. Social media has done this to so many people. Becoming internet famous or winning the internet lottery is commonplace now. As each new social media platform developed, it seemed their goal was just to get normal folks to millions of followers and then saturate with advertisements. Just a tool to keep everyone's faces in their phones so companies could sell all their goods at ungodly rates. The other option was to videotape the tour and release an edited version after he returns. Skip all the praise and adoration he was somehow thinking would come pouring in and just document the work. The probability of him winding up in prison was high, so it wouldn't hurt to consider a book or a series documenting his discovery of what he's done and then how he responded to the news. It's not a bad story. People are mysterious and curious. So many need their lives filled with the idea of draconian events they wouldn't personally want to experience but want to live vicariously through. People are often inspired by the drive and gumption of others because they themselves have never been one to find it on their own. It's either that, or maybe there are people out there who are bursting with empathy and compassion. They're enlightened by the successes of others, maybe even when one of the others is potentially a murderer. Costello began to realize he wanted his story told. He knew he wasn't an evil person, and by no means would he ever kill another human simply for the sake of a wicked desire. In all his life, he never even saw himself as someone who could be lost in emotion or passion and wind up harming anyone. He pondered the idea of wielding a sword, metaphorically, in defense of human life. He was not a coward. This was something he thought about quite frequently because he could never figure out where this stance on putting himself in harm's way in the defense of human life came from. Was it simply in his DNA, or was he indoctrinated by someone? If it were anyone, he always considered it had to be Grant's. He and his dad didn't spend much time together, and it wasn't a characteristic he ever saw emanating from him. The more he thought about it, chances were it was something he garnered from his mom. She was the one survivalist in their tribe. In a perfect world, each day passes without solicitude. Costello was feathered in between this perfect world and his own self-generated anxieties for years. It wasn't until he allowed his gluttony to slip and land him in a predicament he could have avoided by simply staying within the boundaries of propriety. The depths of his existence were now being analyzed, and it would apparently be constructing mechanisms he wasn't familiar with, but he found them quite fond. Day in and day out, so many people color within the lines and wake up to new days with 0 pits in their stomach. Some make petty errors as they trudge along in their boring lives and open their eyes to a new day with regret from something they did falling off their path. Costello realized he's been rolling the dice for fucking years, and instead of counting his blessings, he pushed the envelope, and now he's carrying around a world of regret. Once the box is unlocked, however, there isn't much you can do except honor your oath as a human and pay the piper for your fuck-ups. No matter how much Costello accepted this fact, it didn't make sleeping any easier. He needed to get this entire vignette of his life off his chest and pay his dues. The problem is he's committed to this tour, and not even his silly little oath with morality was going to take that away. He was going to have to find ways to sleep through the galaxy of the thoughts racing through his head every night, all while staying away from his pacifier, the añejo. Costello found his tablet and created a file to start a journal. May as well start documenting his preparation for the tour and his mental struggles getting himself all leveled out for the trip. He thought for sure the words would just start flying onto the screen, but nothing happened. He just laid out some bullet points and tried to structure the document so he could pick topics and let his mind do the rest. As he typed away headers and topics, he watched the word apologies in all caps come across the screen. No matter how organized he wanted the trip to be, his altruism kept coming through. All he could think about was how he would apologize to those who have been hurt by his actions. Costello turned off the tablet and called it a night.